What happens when the school bullies push the wrong person to the edge? What if that person can't fight back? Now imagine this. You're in a wheelchair, embarrassed, on the floor, with everyone laughing, but then just 30 minutes later, the bullies get a dose of their own medicine in the most unexpected way. This is the story of Eva, the girl who got knocked down, and Jayla, the girl who made sure the bullies would never forget what they did. Stay tuned to find out how one girl got the ultimate revenge, without throwing a single punch. It was just another typical Tuesday at Lockwood High. The halls were filled with the usual chaos. Students rushing to their next class, earbuds in their ears, phones glued to their hands. The air was buzzing with the energy of a school day, but for Eva, a 15-year-old girl in a wheelchair, the excitement felt like it belonged to everyone but her. At locker 208, Eva carefully packed her books into her bag, trying to blend into the background. She had only been at the school for a few weeks, and hadn't yet made any real friends. Being the new kid wasn't easy, especially when you weren't exactly the kind of person people noticed. She had long dark hair that she kept tucked behind her ears, glasses perched on her nose, and a shy demeanor that made it hard for her to speak up or be seen. But there was one thing people could always count on. Eva was kind. If you needed help with your homework or even just someone to talk to, Eva was there with a gentle smile and a listening ear. But today, as she fumbled to zip up her bag, something felt off. She could hear the faint sound of footsteps, loud, brash, and unmistakable. Logan and Tyler, the school's two most notorious bullies, were approaching. They were impossible to miss. Logan with his broad shoulders and cocky grin, and Tyler his sidekick, always trailing behind like a shadow. The two of them loved making everyone's day harder. Whether it was picking on someone for the way they dressed, or the way they looked, Logan and Tyler were like a storm, leaving chaos in their wake. Eva tried to ignore them, knowing that keeping her head down was usually the best strategy when they were around. But that was when Logan's voice cut through the noise. "Watch this," Logan said, his words barely more than a whisper to Tyler, but loud enough for Eva to hear. He chuckled softly, the kind of laugh that made the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. Before Eva could even react, Tyler, with a swift motion, pushed the back of her wheelchair. It was so sudden that Eva didn't have time to brace herself. The force of the push was more than she expected, and the world around her seemed to tilt and spin. Her body jerked forward, her arms instinctively reaching out to stop herself. But it was too late. The wheelchair tipped over with a sickening sound, and Eva was thrown to the floor. The impact was harder than she'd expected, the cold, hard tile digging into her back as she lay there, dazed and disoriented. Her books scattered across the hallway, some sliding out of reach, others tumbling into the open air like forgotten treasures. Her bag flew open, spilling papers and pens everywhere, but it wasn't the mess that made her heart race. It was the crushing humiliation that hit her like a wave. Eva was on the floor, her face burned with embarrassment as she looked up. All around her, students were staring. Some had paused in their tracks, eyes wide in disbelief, while others were already pulling out their phones, no doubt ready to snap pictures or take videos. No one came forward to help. She felt a lump form in her throat as she tried to push herself up, but the weight of the situation kept her frozen. Some of the students nearby were laughing, not even bothering to hide it. Logan and Tyler didn't even glance back. They simply kept walking, their laughter echoing down the hall as they disappeared into the crowd. The worst part was that no one cared. No one stepped in. There was no teacher around. No one who would stand up and say that's an. Some of the students made jokes under their breath, trying to mask their amusement. Others were just indifferent, as though this was something that happened every day and didn't deserve a second thought. A few of the braver ones even took out their phones, recording the scene for later. Eva lay there, feeling the weight of the world on her chest. She wasn't just physically hurt, it was the emotional pain that stung the most. The sense of helplessness, of being so vulnerable, was overwhelming. In that moment, she wanted nothing more than to disappear into the floor and never come back. For a brief second, she wondered if anyone had noticed. Had anyone seen how cruel and careless the situation was? Or was she just another laughingstock in a world where kindness was rare, and bullying was the norm? Just as she tried to pull herself up, the sound of footsteps interrupted her thoughts. But this time they were different, softer, more purposeful. Someone was coming to help. Eva looked up, hoping it wasn't just another passerby pretending to ignore her. Her eyes locked onto the figure moving toward her. It wasn't a teacher, or a student she recognized, but something about this person felt different. They weren't laughing, they weren't taking pictures, they were coming to help. At the end of the hall, Standing near a row of lockers was Jayla, a black girl, with tight braids that fell over her shoulders, and a hoodie that read, "Don't try me." She had a calm presence, but one look at her and you'd know not to mess with her. It wasn't because she was the loudest or the most outgoing, it was because there was something about her that commanded respect. She carried herself with a quiet strength, and when she spoke, people listened. Jayla wasn't the most popular girl at Lockwood. She wasn't part of the in crowd, nor did she care to be. She wasn't interested in drama, and she didn't chase popularity, but if there was one thing she couldn't stand, it was injustice. And right now, as she watched the scene unfold, there was no denying it. What happened to Eva was wrong. It was beyond wrong. Her eyes narrowed as she watched Logan and Tyler walk away, their laughter echoing down the hall like a cruel wind. The two of them swaggered with smug expressions, as if they had done something funny, something clever, but Jayla could see it clearly. The way they'd knocked Eva down, without a second thought, the way they hadn't even looked back, the way everyone else just stood there, letting it happen. Her heart pounded in her chest. The world around her seemed to slow, her focus narrowing onto those two bullies. She could feel her fists clenching at her sides, her body brimming with a quiet rage. She wanted to do something, anything, but she knew that losing her temper wouldn't solve anything. It never did. She needed to think. She needed to be smart. Eva was still on the floor, struggling to pull herself together. Jayla could hear her muttering softly, but the words didn't matter. What mattered was that Eva was alone in this moment, and nobody was coming to help her. Nobody except Jayla. Without a second thought, Jayla pushed through the crowd of students, her gaze fixed firmly on Eva. As she approached, she could feel the eyes of the other students on her, but she didn't care. She didn't care about what they thought of her, or whether they'd judge her for standing up. Right now, all that mattered was making sure Eva knew she wasn't alone. "Hey, you okay?" Jayla asked, her voice calm but firm. She knelt down beside Eva, her hand resting gently on the arm of the wheelchair to steady it. Eva looked up at Jayla, her face a mix of confusion and gratitude. Her eyes were red, and there was an unmistakable look of humiliation on her face. She opened her mouth to speak, but her voice cracked. "Thank you," Eva whispered, her words barely audible, but the emotion behind them spoke volume. Her gratitude was evident in her eyes, even though her lips trembled. Jayla gave her a small, reassuring smile. She could feel Eva's pain, but there was something else, something deeper. Eva didn't just need help. She needed someone to stand up for her, someone to show her that not everyone was going to turn away. Jayla helped Eva sit up a little straighter, making sure she was stable before standing back up. As she did, her gaze flickered over the hallway. No teachers, no authority figure, just students walking by, as if nothing had happened. Some had even pulled out their phones, snapping pictures or recording videos. It made Jayla sick to her stomach. Was this how things were now? People treated pain like it was entertainment. She clenched her jaw, her eyes narrowing. "No one's going to say anything, are they?" Jayla muttered under her breath. Eva didn't answer. She didn't need to. It was clear as day. People were afraid. People were too comfortable standing on the sidelines, too afraid of being caught in the crossfire of a confrontation. Jayla wasn't afraid, but she wasn't going to make a scene. Not yet. Jayla looked around once more, making sure no one was paying attention to her, besides the people who were recording. "Of course. Give me 30 minutes. The words came out more confidently than she felt, and as soon as she said them, she knew there was no turning back. Eva looked up at Jayla, a faint trace of confusion still lingering in her eyes. What do you mean?" Jayla turned to her, her expression hardening. "Just trust. I'll make sure they regret it." Eva's face softened. "You don't have to." Jayla shook her head, cutting her off. "No, I do." Eva wasn't sure what to say. She felt a mix of hope and fear building in her chest. She'd never seen someone so confident, so determined. Maybe it was the way Jayla spoke, or maybe it was the fire in her eyes, but Eva suddenly believed that something would happen. Something that would make those bullies understand the price of their cruelty. Jayla took a deep breath, her hands still clenched into fists, but now it wasn't anger driving her, it was purpose. "I'll be back, just wait here." With that, Jayla turned and walked away, her footsteps echoing through the hallway. As she disappeared into the crowd, she knew exactly what she had to do. Jayla wasn't one to jump into fights, especially not for the sake of getting revenge. She believed in justice, not just physical confrontation, but making sure things were right. She knew that sometimes, the best way to make an impact wasn't through brute force, but through careful planning. And Jayla was smart. She wasn't just going to react to what had happened. No, she was going to make sure that what happened to Eva didn't go unpunished. As soon as she walked away from Eva, Her mind started working at full speed. Logan and Tyler thought they'd gotten away with something, but they were wrong. Jayla wasn't going to let them off the hook that easily. She had a plan, and it was going to take more than a few minutes to execute, but she wasn't going to waste any time. Her first stop was the tech lab. Jayla knew just who to go to for something like this. Malik, a quiet kid with a knack for technology, was always tinkering with computers and gadgets. Rumor had it, Malik had hacked into the school Wi-Fi just to stream anime on a school computer. If anyone could help her out, it was him. She pushed open the door to the tech lab, and Malik looked up from his computer. His glasses slid down his nose, and he pushed them back up with one hand, raising an eyebrow at her. "Malik, I need your help." He didn't even blink. He knew Jayla didn't ask for help, unless it was important. "What do you need?" he asked, already pulling up a chair for her. "I need security footage," Jayla said, her voice low but serious, "of Logan and Tyler, the ones who pushed Eva down in the hallway." Malik's eyes lit up. He leaned forward, fingers flying across the keyboard. "I've got the camera feeds right here." Jayla glanced around the lab as Malik worked. The walls were cluttered with old circuit boards and computer parts, and the smell of soldering iron still lingered in the air. But Jayla didn't care about any of that. She focused on Malik's screen, watching as he effortlessly navigated the school's security system. In less than 5 minutes, Malik pulled up the footage of the hallway. The timestamp on the video confirmed it. Logan and Tyler were clearly visible, laughing as they pushed Eva's wheelchair, sending her tumbling to the ground. The footage was undeniable. "This is perfect, Malik," Jayla said, a small smile forming on her face. "Can you send me the clip?" He clicked a few more buttons, and in seconds the video was transferred to her phone. Jayla stood up, pocketing her phone with a determined look. "Thanks, Malik. You just made my job a whole lot easier. Just don't get me caught up in it, alright?" Malik warned, giving her a serious look. "Don't worry, I've got it from here." With the footage in hand, Jayla wasted no time. She quickly opened her email and attached the video, sending it anonymously to Principal Johnson, and every single teacher's inbox she could think of. The email was short, simple, and to the point. Video proof of bullying incident in the hallway. That was it. She didn't need to say more. The video spoke for itself. She hit send, knowing it would only take minutes for the entire school to be aware of what had happened. The consequences were about to come crashing down on Logan and Tyler. But Jayla wasn't done yet, not even close. Her next stop was the drama club. The club was holding auditions and prepping for the school's upcoming play, and her cousin Amara was always there, working behind the scenes. Jayla knew that Amara had the connections, resources, and creativity to help her finish what she'd started. When Jayla entered the drama room, Amara was sorting through some costumes. Her eyes widened when she saw Jayla approach. "What's going on?" Amara asked, raising an eyebrow. Jayla had a mischievous glint in her eye, as she leaned against the doorframe. "I need fake blood, a wig and your loudest speaker." Amara blinked, clearly taken aback. "Do I want to know?" "Nope," Jayla grinned, feeling a little bit of excitement bubble up inside her. Amara just stared at her for a moment, then sighed and shook her head. "I'm going to regret this, aren't I?" "Yep." Amara shook her head, but didn't argue. She walked over to a nearby table where they kept the props for the play, rummaging through a box filled with various material. She pulled out a wig with long curly hair, just the right amount of dramatic flair, and tossed it at Jayla. Next, she grabbed a small container of fake blood. "You're lucky I have this. It's for the vampire scene, but I can always get more." "Perfect." Jayla snatched the blood and winked at Amara. "Now, for the speaker." Amara's eyes twinkled with suspicion. "What are you planning, exactly?" Jayla just smiled. "Trust me, you'll see soon enough." Amara sighed but nodded, knowing when her cousin was on a mission. Jayla had everything she needed. Now it was time to set her plan into motion. Justice would be served, and Logan and Tyler would soon know exactly what it felt like to be embarrassed and exposed. And Jayla? She was ready to make sure they never picked on anyone again. It had been exactly 29 minutes since Eva had been pushed to the ground. The hallways of Lockwood High were still buzzing with the aftermath of the incident, whispers floating through the air like wildfire. Students had seen the video Jayla sent to the principal and teacher, but Logan and Tyler had no idea what was about to hit them. Logan and Tyler strolled into the gym like they owned the place, just as cocky and arrogant as ever. Their loud voices echoed off the walls as they joked, tossing a basketball between them, oblivious to the storm that was about to unfold. To them it was just another normal day, until they stepped into the gym. As soon as they walked in, the lights went out, everything went pitch black. For a split second, the gym fell into eerie silence. Logan and Tyler paused, confused. Tyler even fumbled for his phone, trying to turn on the flashlight. "What the hell?" he muttered, squinting into the darkness. Then with a sudden flick, the lights blazed to life, but there was something different about the lighting. It wasn't just the usual fluorescent buzz. There was a strange tension in the air, as if something was about to happen. The gym, which should have been a regular space for shooting hoops, now felt like a stage, like everything was planned. As the lights fully illuminated, Logan and Tyler saw a single speaker in the middle of the court, sitting all alone. The speakers crackled, and a voice filled the gym, clear and unshakable. "Hey everyone, this is Logan and Tyler bullying a girl in a wheelchair. Real tough guys." The words were jarring, direct and unmistakably confident. The voice wasn't a teacher or the principal, it was Jayla's voice, smooth and unbothered. She had set everything up perfectly. Logan and Tyler's expressions froze. They knew exactly what was coming next. Before they could even react, the gym scoreboard projector switched on, and the screen filled with the video of them, the video of the hallway. The footage was clear, unmistakable, and full screen, showing every single detail. Logan and Tyler's faces were as large as life on the projector, caught in the act. There they were, laughing, pushing Eva's wheelchair, Eva falling to the ground, the unmistakable sound of her books scattering, the stunned silence, as the hallway echoed their cruelty. It was all there, framed for everyone to see. The video didn't just show their faces, it showed the real consequences of their actions, their carelessness, and the pain they caused. Logan's face turned red as he saw himself in the footage. Tyler stepped back, his eyes darting around in panic, but there was no escaping what had happened. It was out there, everyone saw it, and then, just as they thought they couldn't feel any worse, Jayla's trap triggered. Fake blood began to pour down from above, directly onto Logan and Tyler, who were standing frozen in place. It wasn't just a little splash, no, this was an overwhelming flood of red that covered them both from head to toe. It was stage blood, thick, bright and completely unexpected. Tyler screamed in shock, his hands instinctively reaching up to his face to wipe the blood away. Logan, momentarily stunned, tried to step backward, but his foot slipped on the slick, sticky floor. He flailed for balance, but couldn't stop himself from falling flat on his back with an almost comical crash. The gym erupted into chaos. Laughter, gasps, and the sounds of phones being pulled out filled the air. Students pulled out their phones faster than they could blink, capturing the scene in real time. No one was about to miss this. Everyone had a front row seat to the humiliation of the school's biggest bullies. Phones zoomed in, the cameras recording every moment. Students whispered excitedly to each other, some pointing and laughing, others shaking their heads in disbelief. But all of them, were recording. It wasn't just a simple prank anymore. This was public. It was permanent. Logan and Tyler had tried to turn their bullying into entertainment, but now they were the ones getting exposed. Their arrogance had come back to haunt them in front of the entire school. They had no idea how quickly things could change. As the fake blood continued to pour, Tyler looked around, his face twisted in embarrassment and rage. "What the hell is this?" he yelled, his voice cracking, but no one was listening. They were too busy recording. Logan, still lying flat on the gym floor, looked around at the crowd, his face pale. He had never been so humiliated in his life. The cameras were everywhere, everyone saw. It was over. Jayla stood just outside the gym door, watching from a distance, hidden in the shadows. She couldn't help but smile to herself, as she saw the scene unfold. Logan and Tyler had wanted to humiliate Eva, to make her feel small, but they'd underestimated what happens when you mess with the wrong person. Justice had been served. By the time Principal Johnson arrived in the gym, the situation had spiraled into full-blown chaos. The fake blood still stained the gym floor, and Logan and Tyler, covered in the red mess, were the laughingstocks of the entire school. The scene was a spectacle. Students gathered in clumps, phones raised, recording the bullies' fall from grace. The projector still showed the footage of the bullying incident, frozen in time like a damning reminder of their cruelty. Jayla stood calmly by the gym entrance, her arms crossed, and a small, satisfied smile playing on her lips. She wasn't panicked or nervous. In fact, she felt a sense of quiet triumph. She had done what she set out to do, and now, justice was finally being served. Principal Johnson's footsteps echoed in the hallway as he entered the gym, his eyes wide with confusion at the scene before him. His gaze darted to the two boys on the floor, covered in fake blood, their faces red with embarrassment. The students scattered, but many still lingered, their eyes glued to the spectacle. What in the world is going on here?" Principal Johnson's voice rang through the gym. He quickly noticed the projector screen, and the video footage playing, a clear and undeniable record of the bullying that had taken place.
Jayla stepped forward, her movements deliberate. She pulled a small USB drive from her pocket and handed it to the principal, her expression unwavering. "Here's the video footage," she said coolly, her voice calm and measured, "and you might want to check the comments under the school's Instagram post. It's trending." The principal glanced down at the USB drive, then back at her, still processing what had just happened. His confusion quickly turned to disbelief as he saw the faces of Logan and Tyler on the projector screen, caught in the act of pushing Eva's wheelchair and sending her crashing to the floor. The silence in the gym deepened, and Principal Johnson realized he had no choice but to act swiftly. I'll deal with this immediately," he stammered, his tone now more serious. He turned toward the two boys, who were still sitting on the floor, mortified. "Logan, Tyler, you're both suspended." Their eyes widened, but they didn't argue. They could. The evidence was clear, and their humiliation in front of the entire school had already sealed their fate. Word spread quickly through the school. By the time the school board received the video and started their review, parents were calling. Messages of outrage flooded the principal's office. Some parents even threatened to pull their kids out of the school if such behavior was allowed to continue unchecked. It didn't take long for the situation to escalate further, reaching the local news. A story about bullying and its consequences was now a hot topic across the city. Logan and Tyler's names became synonymous with embarrassment. Their classmates had turned on them, and their once proud reputations were destroyed. No one was laughing now, not at them anyway, and the only thing Logan and Tyler could do was suffer the consequences of their own action. But for Jayla, the victory wasn't about seeing them pay for what they'd done. It was about ensuring that Eva finally got the respect she deserved. That afternoon, Jayla walked through the halls, feeling a sense of peace settle over her. But there was one more thing left to do. She spotted Eva in the hallway, her wheelchair tucked neatly next to a locker, as she spoke quietly with a few students. And for the first time since the incident, Eva looked different. She looked happy, her usual shyness had melted away, and there was a new glimmer of confidence in her eye. Eva noticed Jayla approaching and smiled at her, genuinely smiled. It was the first real smile Jayla had seen from her since the bullying incident. "Hey, Eva," Jayla said, walking up to her with a smile of her own. Eva looked up, her expression still a little uncertain, but there was warmth there. "Jayla, I don't even know what to say." Jayla chuckled softly. "You don't have to say anything." Eva paused for a moment, looking at her with gratitude in her eyes. "But I still don't get, why'd you do all that for me? I barely even know you." Jayla's smile widened, and she placed a hand on Eva's shoulder, her voice firm but kind. "Because no one else did." She leaned in just slightly, making sure Eva could hear her clearly. "And they needed to learn. You don't push people who can't fight back, especially not in my school." Eva's eyes softened, a deep sigh escaping her lips, as if a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. She'd always felt alone in this school, like no one cared or noticed when things went wrong. But now, there was Jayla, someone who cared, someone who made sure that for once the bullies didn't win. "Thank you, Jayla," Eva said, her voice barely above a whisper, but it carried so much more weight than the words could express. Jayla just nodded, offering a smile that said everything. "You're welcome." And with that the school returned to normal. But something had changed. Eva had regained her strength, and Jayla had made sure that no one would ever forget the lesson that had been taught. Injustice would not be tolerated. And as for Logan and Tyler, they would learn the hard way that no one could get away with hurting others without facing the consequences. Not in Jayla's school.
After the chaos of the past few days, things at Lockwood High slowly began to settle. The dust from the incident had cleared, and life had returned to a strange new normal. Eva's world, once filled with whispers and glances, now felt different. It wasn't that the bullying had disappeared completely, but something had shifted, something in the way people saw her. At first Eva wasn't sure how to handle the attention. She had grown used to being the quiet, shy girl in a wheelchair who was often overlooked. Pity, she knew, had been the emotion most people felt toward her. She never wanted anyone's pity. All she had ever wanted was to be treated like everyone else. But after Jayla's bold stand, that's exactly what began to happen. As the days went by, it was clear that people were no longer seeing her as the victim. They started to look at her with respect. She wasn't just the girl who had been pushed over. She was the girl who had come back stronger, with the backing of someone who truly understood the power of standing up for what's right. Students who had once avoided her, or even ignored her, now approached her with genuine offers of help. There was no more awkward silence when they passed her in the hallways. Instead, there were smiles, friendly greetings, and simple gestures, like opening a door or offering to carry her books. They didn't do it out of obligation anymore. They did it because they wanted to. And then there were those who had once laughed at her, who had been too scared to stand up against the bullying. Now, those same students were the ones walking up to Eva, their faces filled with genuine regret. "Hey Eva, I'm really sorry about before," one student who had been part of the crowd laughing that day in the hallway said with a sheepish expression. Eva looked at him for a long moment, not quite sure what to say. She wasn't angry anymore, not really, but the apology felt genuine, so she gave him a small forgiving nod. "It's okay," Eva replied quietly. "I know you didn't mean it. This wasn't just about the apology, this was about change." People weren't just apologizing because of the consequences they had seen unfold. They were apologizing because they had realized their actions or inaction had hurt someone. They now really saw her, as someone with her own voice, her own strength, someone worth listening to. But as much as the respect felt good, it wasn't the attention that Eva craved. It wasn't about being treated differently because of her wheelchair, or because of what had happened. It was simply about being seen for who she truly was. Eva, the girl who loved to read, who wanted to fit in like everyone else, who had hopes and dreams. It was about being accepted, not because of her disability, but in spite of it. And through it all, Eva couldn't help but feel a deep sense of gratitude for Jayla. She had always admired Jayla from a distance. Jayla had always been one of those people who walked with confidence, and seemed to have the ability to make others stand up and listen. But what Jayla had done for her, what she had risked in order to stand up for Eva, meant everything. Jayla didn't need the attention, the praise or even the recognition. She wasn't in it for herself. She had done what she had done simply because it was the right thing. Jayla never acted as though she needed Eva's gratitude. She didn't want to be seen as some sort of hero. In fact, when Eva tried to thank her, Jayla waved it off. "I just did what needed to be done. You don't need to thank me. I just wanted you to know that you matter." It was in that moment that Eva realized how much Jayla's courage had changed her life. Before the incident, Eva had always felt like she was just surviving, keeping her head down, avoiding confrontation, and hoping she wouldn't be noticed. But thanks to Jayla's bravery, she had learned something deeper. Standing up for what's right, for yourself and for others, didn't just mean surviving. It meant thriving. It meant finding your voice and not being afraid to use it, no matter who was watching. Jayla hadn't just taken down the bully. She had shown Eva how to live with confidence, how to stand tall even when it seemed like the world was trying to push you down. And that was something Eva could carry with her, not just at school, but for the rest of her life. Eva rolled her wheelchair through the halls of Lockwood High, with a newfound sense of purpose. She no longer felt small, no longer felt like she had to hide. For the first time she knew that she could make a difference, that she could be heard. And as for Jayla, well, she was just happy that for once, someone wouldn't have to feel small anymore. It wasn't about the spotlight for her. It was about making sure that when it was all said and done, the world knew there was always a choice to do the right thing, and that one person, at least for today, didn't have to feel alone. In the end, justice had been served. But more importantly, Eva had learned to stand tall, and she knew that whatever came next, she would always have the courage to stand up for what was right. It's amazing how one act of kindness and courage can make a difference. Jayla showed us that when we stand up for what's right, we can change everything, even in just 30 minutes. The bullies got what they deserved, but more importantly, Eva got her confidence back. Remember, sometimes standing up for someone is the most powerful thing you can do. We all have a choice. Will you be the one who stays silent, or will you be the one who takes action? If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, comment, and share your thoughts. What would you do if you were in Jayla's shoes? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more real-life inspired stories. We'll see you in the next one.